Good evening and welcome to Minority Caucus. Today we're discussing 8 years of hardships, lies and propaganda, the legacy of the Mahama administration. However, before we begin, we will observe a minute's silence for our departed national chairman, Mr. Jake Utanka Obichebilamte. May his soul rest in peace. Welcome back to Minority Caucus. Welcome back to Minority Caucus, and today we're discussing 8 years of hardships, lies, and propaganda, the legacy of the Mahama administration. We'll be looking at issues affecting the lives of the people of this country. We'll also be looking at the accounting to the people tour that has been embarked upon by the President John Dramani Mahama. A couple of hours ago in the Volta region, he made statements to the effect negating his earlier statement that he was going to put money into the pockets of the people of this country. His statements today have been revised to seem or to present the case that it is rather the citizenry that have been lazy and have not taken advantage of the opportunities that have been created by the government through a robust economy that has been created by the Mahama-led NDC administration. With me to discuss the issue is Anthony Abai-Fakabo, a Deputy Director of Communications, and also joining us in a bit is the National Youth Organizer of the NPP, Mr. Sami Ewuku. Kabo, welcome to Minority Caucus.
Thank you very much.
Like I said before, President Mahama has been on a tour of the country that has been dubbed Accounting to the People. And he seems to be commissioning some school blocks, some road projects that have been done hurriedly. In the Volta region, for instance, there are road construction equipment that are moved to site, or some have been moved to site in the last 24 hours. Some have been moved to site since his first visit to the region a couple of weeks ago. Yesterday, he commissioned a senior high school, which is the 5th of the senior high schools that are under construction. The NDC in 2012 promised to build 200 senior high schools by the time the tenure of President Mahama comes to an end. They promised at first that we're going to build 50 senior high schools a year. After 2 years into the administration, the NDC government denied that they did not make any promise to build 50 schools a year, but rather they were going to build 200 schools at the end of their term. As we speak, 5 schools, as at yesterday, have been commissioned. We are told that 123 are going to be commissioned by November 7th, 2016. That also falls short of the 200 that were supposed to be constructed. Let's start from the Accounting to the People tour.
Well, it's very interesting. I would like to say good evening to all well-wishers of the New Patriotic Party, and also to say that we would be joining the family of the late Jake Obichebilamte for the memorial service this evening at the Ridge Church. Having said that, Mr. Perry Okujeto, you will agree with me that the President has started a tour of the country which has been dubbed accounting to the people. And you know that in every standard accounting process, records must be audited. And unaudited accounts have no credibility, and they offend the basic proposition that persons shall not be a judge in their own cause. The president has deliberately ignored the hardships that Ghanaians are going through. Is failing to address the falling standards of living. Is failing to address the difficulties the economy is going through, and has chosen to tout some few projects that his government has accomplished. Many of these projects, however, did not even start under his administration. Many started under 2007 and 2008, and they rolled over because of the change of government. And so there was some continuum. Many of those projects have reached their maturation point, and for which reason they are being commissioned. But the president is still touting this. Last week, the president was in the Eastern region. And in the Eastern region, the president indicated that Ghana's economy has become resilient and robust. But many of us who heard the president were wondering if His Excellency was talking about Ghana. For a minute, I thought the president was referring to Kenya, because the evidence on the ground doesn't point to the assertion or the claims that have been made by His Excellency the President. Perry, the government has been telling Ghanaians that they are transforming our economy, transformational leadership, they are changing lives. But when you look strictly at the data, it points to a completely different picture. We live in a country today where inflation is the highest since 2000, 19.2%. We live in a country where agriculture, which is the mainstay of our economy, which employs 60% of our population, both in rural and urban Ghana, are involved in agriculture. Agriculture has stagnated under this government and is currently growing at 0.04%. Manufacturing, that any country that seeks to industrialize and move into a world of competitiveness, create jobs for its people, will certainly have to revamp and inject more capital into the manufacturing sector. As we speak, the manufacturing sector in this country is growing as negative 2%. Now you look at the country's debt stock, the debt overhang, that the percentage of our debt to GDP ratio is some 73.5%. The largest and the biggest overhang we have seen in the history of this country. We have seen a consistent freeze in employment in the public sector over the last 8 years, that graduates who have come out from school, polytechnics, teacher training colleges, nursing training colleges are unable to be posted because of this freeze. And what has worsened the crisis is because the private sector, which is supposed to be the engine of growth and provide opportunities that government will only have to create an enabling environment, have been stifled out simply because of high interest rates. As we speak, we're talking about interest rates that is hovering around some 36%, because government itself has jumped into borrowing within the market and has made credit expensive to the private sector. Now, when you put all these things together, when you look even at the stagnating growth in the agriculture sector, you begin to ask yourself, is this economy really a robust economy? Because the figures don't, and the statistics doesn't point in that direction. But what is even strange is the president to claim that the economy is growing. How can an economy be growing when this country's economy is growing between 3.5% to 4% by the end of this year?
But really, is it indicators that show that an economy is resilient, or it is sheer rhetoric?
Well, I think that the indicators speak well for themselves. And that I think that if agriculture in any modern economy where agriculture is booming, you will see major growth in agriculture, because food outputs from the rural areas will increase. The number of acreage that farmers will cultivate on will increase, because farmers are getting inputs. As we speak, for the last 2 farming seasons, it's been difficult for this government to provide, in fact, subsidized fertilizer for the farmers in the rural areas. 2 seasons have gone. if you look at the allocations that were made to the Ministry of Agric in 2015, that some $260 million was allocated to the agriculture sector. After the appropriation bill was passed in Parliament, indeed, only $26 million was provided to the ministry. But the ministry had to use the money to clear the debt for 2009 and 2010 because of the importation of fertilizer. So for 2012, for 2011, 2012, 2013, we haven't had fertilizer importation into this country to subsidize it, to make it available for farmers. These are the harsh realities. The rising cost of farm inputs is a major reality. The cost of seedlings have gone up. The cost of a hoe and a cutlass over the last 8 years has shot up. So farming has become a very expensive venture for many of our rural folks who engage in this in a subsistence manner to support their families and also to sell off the excesses in our local markets. So these are the stark realities. If you take unemployment, for instance, because of the cap and the freeze on public sector employment, it has made it very difficult for our graduates who have left the university. Hordes of them are moving around this country, and they have almost given up because they are unable to, they don't see application for job openings anywhere in the newspapers. Those that they see, they get picked up even before they submit their CVs. So many of our graduates have stopped putting together their CVs and are waiting for a government that will come and expand the economy, grow the economy, and provide the jobs. Look, as we speak, banks are laying off workers. By close of 2015, the banking industry grew by some -5.4%. And that should tell you the number of banks that are laying off people. GN Bank is laying off people, UBA is laying off people, ADB is laying off people, and these are in their thousands. So it really poses a threat and a danger to our economy. I find it very sad when the president said that the economy is growing. How can an economy be growing at 3.5%? Meanwhile, the MPP handed over an economy that was robust, an economy that was growing at 8.4% to this government. And all this happened minus oil. Now you have oil coming onto the stream. It has increased our budget. It has made possible for our growth projections to rise. And they told us in 2011 that Ghana was the fastest growing economy, the second fastest growing economy in the world. So the irony, the paradox of the situation is, after 2011, what has happened to our economy? That it is growing at 3.5%, and the president still goes on to claim that this economy is growing. Then it means that the economy was flying under President Kufuor's administration. It means that the economy was doing well under President Mills in 2011, but all of a sudden, under President Mahama's leadership, also as head of the economic management team and as president of the republic, this is the record of the country. We have been saying to the president that if indeed our president is claiming to be going around the country accounting to the people, we will suggest to the president, if he wants to come close to the hardships that Ghanaians are going through, the president should make brief stops at a barbering shop, the president should stop at a tailoring center, the president should stop at a vulcanizing shop, the president should stop at a coal store, the president should stop at a printing press and find out from these small business owners how
whether the robust economy,
whether this economy is being robust.
We'll come back to the discussion. Viewers, you're on Minority Caucus. We'll take a break. Back to this edition of Minority Caucus. Viewers, you can join us via social media on facebook.com/joynewsontv and also via WhatsApp on 0560 800,000. In 2008, a tin of milk used to cost us 1 cedi. It is now 3 cedis. A tin of Milo, which used to be 5 cedis in 2008, is now 11 cedis. An olonka, as we call it in our local parlance, of Gari, which used to cost us 1 cedi, now costs 7 cedis. A tuber of yam is 12 cedis today, and a crate of egg, which used to cost us about 8 cedis, now costs 18 cedis. Joining us for the discussion also, like I said earlier, is the National Youth Organizer of the NPP, Mr. Sami Oku. Sami, with this price, or with this galloping prices year on year since 2009 till date, will you call this economy a robust economy?
I mean, first of all, let me say good evening to your cherished viewers. Cabo has done a surgical operation on the 8 years maladministration of the limping government of Mahama and Emisata. However, the prices that you quoted there, this is even when people have mercy on you. That's when they give it to you at this price.
Exactly.
And it is clear that day in, day out, the cost of living in our country seems to be on a strategic rise. Again, it's also a fact that the standard of living has fallen in many Ghanaian homes. Food has been taken off our table. And again, it is clear that this government has not only lied to the people of Ghana, but has also decided to play mind games with us. It is instructive to note that when Professor Mills passed on at Ekunfi Otuam, Vice President, then President John Dramani Mahama, stated that he was the luckiest vice president in history, that he was given access and he was running the country. He stated it. And that he said he was in charge of our, he used the word in charge of our country. So he presupposes that the 4 years he shared more of it with Mills. We all knew the condition of our late president. And so for Mahama to then say that he was in charge, it was clear that he was in charge. He was also in charge of our economic management team that was tasked to ensure that the bread and butter economy of our country was on a sound footing. Fast forward to 2016, he's now telling us that no, he needs a second term. But when the NDC, they were launching their campaign in Ho 2012, he said Ghanaians should give NDC another term. Another term. But now, the odds are against him. He's now saying that, look, ladies and gentlemen, we have failed the 8 years that you gave us as a party. So Ghanaians should give you another 4 years for you to now sprinkle money in their pocket. He said that less than a month ago. Today, he makes an about time, as Cabo was saying, that he cannot go around putting money in people's pocket. It is only those who lack the skill, this is the president speaking, those who lack the skill to benefit from our buoyant economy, they are complaining. It's sad. Nobody can tell me that multinationals like Coca-Cola, telecom giants, mining companies, they lack the skill, the human resource, the strategic planning to survive under these conditions. I am clear in my mind that this is a government, a social democratic government, that has failed to put the welfare of the people at the center. Hey, among the things that they promised in 2008, they said they were going to train top SSS graduates from all regions of Ghana in ICT and mobile phone technology. This was NDC speaking in 2008. And they said that it would be required that more products to be assembled in Ghana to provide jobs and support a machine tools industry in Kumasi and Sekondi for sustainable manufacturing. Where Dodge. Invest in manufacturing of building materials in all regions of Ghana. I have not cited even one. I'm not too sure if you've seen any. One thing that they have perfected is the littering of youth-related policies. Cut avenues for chop-chop. First, they brought this 800 JIDA thing. Ghanaians and the youth of our country did not benefit from that 800 million Ghana allocated for JIDA. From 800, a sharp decline to 10 million Ghana cedis under yes. 800 couldn't even solve the problems of the youth. Then come to 10 million Ghana cedis for youth enterprise support. Many of the youth in our country, they don't even know where their offices are, and they keep calling you. Then you come to Ye. So that's what I'm saying. They keep littering in terms of policies, which are not sustainable. I am convinced that this is not a government we can take into the next era of our country's development. They also promised that they were going to also establish 10 teacher training colleges in the country. 10, not even one. They have spoken about the 200 schools, so I won't go there. They said that they are coming for the youth. And so, and as a matter of fact, they will ensure that the youth of our country, they are supported both in the educational sector and outside. First, people used to sell dog chains on the street of Accra, Kumasi. Now they've added the dogs to the chains on the street. So you don't need to buy the chain and go and look for a dog. The dog has been brought to the roadside. And, you know, the sad aspect is that we are creating a culture and a future of hopelessness. And that is where I am worried. Me, I believe that the youth of our country must own the campaign of the opposition MPP. They shouldn't leave it for the big men in the party. They should say to themselves, just as the youth of Ivory Coast rose to the occasion, own the campaign of Ouattara, then opposition leader, canvass for support and vote, and ensure that the Gbagbo was kicked out. The same way, fast forward to Nigeria, the youth of Alata, Nigeria said, look, regardless of the credit that Goodluck was spreading around, even tubers of yam had stickers of Goodluck Jonathan, tubers of yam. Money, vulgar display of opulence by Mahama's West African twin brother, that's Goodluck Jonathan. So with what happened there, yes, I am convinced the youth of our country today, if you move around the country, the numbers are rising. Those who are rising for change, the numbers keep increasing. The NDC, anybody who is affiliated to the NDC now, going for a student election, loses miserably. And sometimes it's through no fault of the student. But just mere affiliation to the sinking government, it makes you lose an election.
To tie into that, Sammy,
yes.
A couple of weeks ago, or a couple of months ago, I asked Cabo this earlier. The president said he was going to put money in our pockets. And I think it was toward the end of 2015, entering 2016, when the president did say that. This morning, instinctively, on Volta Star Radio in the Volta region, the president says now he cannot put money in people's pockets.
You know, maybe before Cabo comes in, Mahama's end-of-year speeches are always dangerous. It was one of the end-of-year speeches that he said that he will banish Doomsaw in the ensuing year, if you remember.
And it got worse.
And it got worse. So his end-of-year speeches, if you check the trend, this one too was an end-of-year speech. You know, the danger of this whole thing is he's taking the people of Ghana for a ride. And he believes that regardless of the numbers, they will still have some electronic touch to win an election. What is past is past. But this election, the youth of the MPP, those of us around this table, the numerous and the teeming youth of our country on the streets of Ghana, they will be more vigilant, canvass for support and vote. Joy FM on Monday morning, they sampled views of young Ghanaians, first-time voters, about where they are likely to vote. Many of them said they will vote for a government that will help them get jobs. Many of them bemoan the current conditions in our country. Many of them said they will vote for Nana Akufo-Addo. Yesterday, on Adom Midday News, I think Efia Pukia and another presenter sampled views of first-time voters in Chi. And this time around, they were telling you openly that they like Nana Akufo-Addo. So, you're only a leader when you turn and people are following you. The moment you turn and the people are no longer following you, you are no longer a leader. You are taking a walk. As we speak, Mahama and Misata, they are taking a long walk into opposition.
Well, Sami succinctly describes our current situation. But however, I want to ask you this. Is it the duty of government to create an environment that encourages or sets the tone for economic growth, or it is, just the economy itself that automatically creates opportunities for the citizenry?
No, Perry, it's not a very difficult answer. I think the answer is quite straightforward, that economic growth is a function of competent management of the economy.
Exactly.
And so if you have competent people in the helm of affairs managing the economy, and those people have credibility and are able to put together economic policies and fiscal policies that will stabilize the economy, bring down interest rates, and also bring down inflation and reduce the country's debt overhang, you will certainly be on a path of success and progress. And naturally, the economy will throw out the jobs that we are expecting. I listened to the president, and I was pretty sad because the president made it look like the fact that you're building a school and a carpenter gets a job, a mason gets a job, electrician gets a job, and those who come to dig the foundation get jobs, they have created jobs. Those are jobs that we've been creating since independence. Because I do know that when the colonial masters came to this country, they established the hospital, they established schools, they established roads, and all these created jobs. But when we talk about job creation, we're talking about sustainable jobs. And these are jobs that the economy must offer. And these are jobs that they will be a consequence of effective management of the economy, prudent policies, and of course, fiscal discipline. And we saw that under the 8th year of President Kufuor. When he came into office, the country was almost at a tipping point. He took this country to epic. We got our debt relieved. And so government had the fiscal space to invest. And that is how come we arrived at the NHIS. That's how come we were able to finance the school feeding program, the National Youth Employment Program, the, capitation grant. We were able to expand the social infrastructure of this country to the levels that we had gotten to. But it is interesting if indeed our president is claiming that this economy is buoyant. One of the litmus tests, which is quite easy, and everybody gets a bill from the electricity company every day, and check the trend. It's very interesting. The moment you find the price of utilities, coming to equilibrium with the cost of rent per month, then you know that the economic fundamentals are pointing towards a wrong direction. Because if you rent a single bedroom, you use just a TV, probably a standing fan, and a fridge, and at the end of the month, you get a bill to pay electricity, and you are paying some 120 Ghana cedis, meanwhile your rent is 50 Ghana cedis, then you should know that it's a problem. Because it shouldn't be possible for electricity to be so expensive that it is at the detriment of job creation. Look at the number of companies that have had to buy, generators, extra expenditure, increasing their production costs. And all these costs are transferred onto people, are transferred onto consumers who are eventually the end users of whatever service or goods that are being produced. Look, public sector workers, and we know that public sector workers in this country are struggling. There are a silent majority in this country who are suffering because of the dilapidating economic measures that have been forced down their throats. Salaries have been stagnant. Inflation is on the rise. Cost of living is on the rise. Cost of education is gone up. Water is gone up. And so school fees and all these utilities have become a thing of tears for many public sector workers. And this is the stark reality. You go to the ministries lately and you find in almost every ministry and a wall, small microfinance companies that are chasing public sector workers to take loans. The question is, many of the public sector workers are having to resort to these loan schemes simply because the meager salary has been outstripped by inflation, and so they need soft loans to be able to augment the salaries, to take care of electricity, to take care of the rising cost of living, to take care of the rising cost of school fees, to take care of their rents, and also to ease the pressure. And it's very sad that you go to the hospitals and you find public sector workers suddenly, on a high frequency of checking their BP, because everybody's BP goes up the moment we hear that petroleum prices are up. And it has become a thing of tears for many of our public sector workers. And so it's important. The president also made this point about the fact that people who are not skilled cannot take advantage of the opportunities in the economy. What skills program have been instituted by this government to provide those skills that the president is talking about? They brought in a program in 2000, where Samir Wuku talked about the National Youth Employment Program, which was supposed to train people in what do you call it? Bicycle riding, youth in Galamsey, youth in Gullywood, youth in all manner of schemes that were put together. But in the end, these young people didn't get the skills. They didn't get a startup. The National Youth Empowerment Fund that has been established, we virtually do not know how these monies have been expended, but I'm told that they have expended the money. Criteria, nobody can tell, and I'm not too sure if young people even are very much aware of the existence of such things. What has become a problem, which has gotten the attraction and attention of this government, is corruption. Corruption has become the most attractive line item on every budget. This is the only government that goes to parliament, allocates some amount of money to pay judgment debts. And Perry, it is sad. If you look at the quantum of monies that have been paid in judgment debts under this government, we are talking about some 657 million Ghana cedis. Look at the amount of money in the president's own backyard, SADA, that was allocated to SADA for the expansion of the north and bridging the gap. When you ask these people, what has the money from SADA been used for, they point to guinea fowls. You ask them where are the guinea fowls, they've crossed over the border. You ask about the tree planting projects, and then they tell you that they were done during the dry season, and so the weather, the vagaries of the weather have condemned these plants, and also they have been bent because of the bush burning. Now you ask yourself, of all the corruption that was exposed by the work of some very astute journalists in this country, we never saw the retrieval of the monies, the 200 million Ghana cedis under the SADA program. We have never seen the retrieval of the money from Wyoming. And I can tell you, Perry, majority of the people who live up country are only looking for a government that will come and establish irrigation schemes that will keep the scores of our young people from moving all the way from the rural areas into the urban areas. The reason why we are having this avalanche of young people moving in drones, especially from upcountry where the president comes from, down to the south for the opportunities, is simply because we do not have a regular, rain schedule. Out of the 12 months in the year, it rains for just 4 months. So after that, there is no jobs, and people have to find new opportunities, and they keep moving. So one of the best policies that could have addressed the issue of rural-urban migration was the establishment of the Northern Development Authority, which Akufo-Addo promised. And the fulcrum of that policy was to see some 5,000 to 10,000 irrigation schemes springing up across the northern regions, creating jobs for our people, so we can encourage dry season agriculture and gardening, so that food products like carrots, like sweet pepper, like cabbage, and all these things could have been supplied to all these malls that are expanding in our country. Go to the malls in Accra, and you will be sad to note that we still have to import
food from South
tomatoes
Africa.
from South Africa. We import potato from South Africa. We import banana from South Africa. Meanwhile, we have a forest zone in this country where we could have encouraged the production, and it's also because of the lack of investment in agriculture. Don't forget that when this government came into power, they had a program called Youth in Agriculture. They had a program called Youth in Block Farming. Ask them, 8 years on, where are we with that? What is the level of output we are getting from all these schemes that have been put in place? And so the problem of poverty continues to face our people in a very stark manner. And the reality is what the president doesn't appear to get. I believe sometimes when you are rolled up in these, fuel-sucking V8s, you hardly come close to the reality of the suffering of our people.
And we spent over 35 million
Indeed.
planting trees
with very little.
And to fund guinea fowls, when just about a half of these monies could have built thousands of dams.
I mean, and the conservative figures, even according to the NDC's own SADA document, is that a dam, an irrigation scheme dam, can be built for $70,000, single one. So you can imagine, Wyoming's money, 52 million Ghana cedis, how many dams that could have built, how many irrigation schemes that we could have put, how many young people we could have taken off the streets and gotten them back onto the farmlands to till the land, work for themselves, make money, feed their families, and the excesses are put onto the market. So these are the concrete problems that are facing our people. I have been asking and saying to myself, I hope that as the president goes around the country and sees these buses, which have his photos on them, he will be, I don't know how the president feels about that, because, I mean, you are a president and you are being branded on a bus that cost the nation a second-hand bus for that matter. Let's be very clear. These buses are second-hand buses from China that cost the taxpayer $200,000 per piece. Meanwhile, you go to Toyota Ghana, you go to any of these car companies here, a brand new, bus of that nature is $70,000. But the country has spent so much in bringing second-hand buses that have always broken down on the way, and they have to be pushed by passengers to get them going, and we have spent $3.5 million to rebrand these buses. This is a very sad situation.
I'll come back to you. And in discussing the issues surrounding corruption, this government has paid a lot of dubious judgment debts to the tune of over 600 million, has spent over 900 million on JIDA that has been squandered by companies that we cannot trace. Government sets up committee after committee to investigate the committee that finished the other investigation over and over and over again. However, we will show you a short video of how government officials are spending our money. Take a look. Viewers, you're welcome back to Minority Caucus. And you just saw a video of a minister of state lavishly doling out money and dancing in a frenzy at a ceremony somewhere around the country. Sammy, corruption is a very worrying issue, especially under the John Mahama administration. And you've seen a video of how ill-gotten money is being used by ministers who have been appointed by the Mahama administration. What are your thoughts?
You know, this is what we call vulgar display of opulence. To the extent that first he was spreading 5 CD note. He realized that the people had gathered and continued to gather. He increased it to 10. Then he decided to finish it up with the 50 note bundle.
Yeah.
In a matter of 10-15 minutes, he spent close to 10,000 just splashing it around and leaving it for the chicken to come feed off. You know, this class system that the NDC now seems to be creating is worrisome. But Kabwa, the heart of the problems facing our country is unemployment. Jobs, jobs, jobs. You have many young men who have completed school, they have nowhere to go. Some of them, their only means of mobility now will have to walk several kilometers distributing CVs. I've seen people trained as nurses. Unfortunately for them, after school, they are still at home. Teachers still at home. People who have finished their universities still at home. Polytechnics still at home. So deliberately, this government has created a system where it's become extremely difficult for the youth of our country to access job opportunities. There are no opportunities to start with. Government, being one of the biggest providers of jobs, has also, through a loan contracted from the IMF, has a freeze on public sector employment. Private sector, which is also employing people, for the past 3 to 4 years, many of them are reeling under great pressure from the economy. 3 years and still counting, most of them cannot even meet their energy needs. It got to a point, Joy FM was closing at midnight, 12. Then they have to resume around 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. Likewise, many radio stations. It got to a point, pupils will have to stand in front of taxis with their headlights on before they can do their homework. This is the sorry state of our country. NPP at the height of HIPIC did not cancel teacher training and nursing training allowance. In effect, you have over 40,000 teacher trainees in the country. 40,000. And these 40,000 can be found in 39 colleges of education. Out of these 40,000 students, only 6,000 are on the government loan scheme. The loan scheme itself ranges from 667 to 1,600. Whereas under the NPP, so assuming that even everybody is getting the loan, the highest you can get is 1,600. But that's not the case. Most of them get between 700 and 850. Their fees in a year for teacher trainees hovers around 3,000 cedis. Now, if you have a pupil or a student from a poor background, how do they make ends meet? How do they pay for their fees? In fact, beginning of this year,
and even after receiving
many of them were not able to even return to school because of these fees stuff. NPP was paying 350 cedis every month to every teacher trainee. So in a year, they get 4,200. That 4,200 can pay for their fees and also their feeding. So it gave them that sound mind to learn. This government, after scrapping it, only 6,000 out of the 40,000 have access to it. If you go to the nursing training, there are about 30,000 nursing trainees in the country. Not even one is on the loan scheme. So when they talk about accessibility, I don't know where that's coming from, because those in the classroom are leaving the classroom because they can no longer afford to pay the fees. So what kind of accessibility are you creating for others? If you make education an exclusive preserve of the rich, then that also feeds into the perception of a class system. What saddens my heart is we could have cut down on wasteful expenditure, the vulgar display of opulence, inflated cost of contract. And alas, you have Elijah Collins Dauda, saying that he has observed. Mind you, he is not a minister for information. He is the sector minister. And at the heart of our development is local governance. Yeah. Because development occurs in the district, municipals, or metropolitan. So this is the man in charge of our local government system. And he's telling you that the development in the district, municipals, and metropolitans seem to be inflated in terms of its cost. Nana Akufo-Addo spoke about this development. He was shredded by Omane Boama and the squealers in government. They didn't want to hear anything like that. We spoke about the branding issue, something that we could, as a country, we could have gotten it for less than 10% of what the woman child does. And that, the money from this bus branding could have used to pay teacher training, nursing training students for the next 50 years. So indeed, we are caught in a situation where sometimes...
let's wrap up. It looks like...
Sometimes it's difficult to choose between the devil system and the Mahama system. Because it looks like there's a line of congruence. They meet at a point. Because in the heart of the devil's kingdom is hellfire.
The sanctum.
Yes, and at the heart of the Mahama government is the gas chamber. So both, you don't know whether you are choosing between a pothole and a manhole.
Well, viewers, all too soon we've come to the end of another edition of Minority Caucus. I've had with me Anthony Abai-Fakabo and Sami Ewuku, National Youth Organizer of the NPP. Take a look at this video.